The unexpected arrival Commander Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the starship Horizon, her dark eyes fixed on the viewscreen, displaying the most extraordinary sight humanity had ever witnessed. The massive structure floating in space before them defied every assumption about what was possible in the universe. It was not just a space station, it was a small artificial world, gleaming with impossible architecture that seemed to bend light itself. "Dr. Webb, are you seeing this?" Sarah asked, her voice barely concealing her amazement. Dr. Marcus Webb, the expedition's chief scientist and xenobiology specialist, was hunched over his console, his weathered face illuminated by streams of data. His gray beard trembled slightly as he spoke. "Commander, the energy readings are off the charts. This structure is at least 10,000 years old, possibly much older. The materials they used don't match anything in our databases." Sarah had been leading humanity's first deep space exploration mission for 3 years. Their ship, the Horizon, represented the pinnacle of human engineering in the year 2387. They had been following a mysterious signal that had been detected by Earth's deep space monitoring stations 6 months ago. The signal had been repeating in mathematical patterns that suggested intelligence, but no one had expected to find something this magnificent. Chief Engineer Rosa Martinez looked up from her station, her curly black hair escaping from her regulation. "Cap, Commander, I'm detecting multiple energy signatures approaching our position. They're not hostile, but they're definitely scanning us." Lieutenant David Park, their communications specialist, suddenly straightened in his chair. "Commander, I'm receiving a transmission. It's not in any human language, but the universal translator is working on it." Sarah felt her heart racing. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. "Put it through, Lieutenant." The bridge filled with a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. It was musical, almost like singing, but with undertones that seemed to resonate through their bones. Then, gradually, the translator began to convert the alien language into English. "Greetings, unknown vessel. I am Ambassador Crix of the Galactic Council. Your ship design is unfamiliar to us. Please identify your species and state your purpose in Council space." Sarah exchanged glances with her crew. They had prepared for this moment, but nothing could have truly prepared them for the reality of speaking with an alien intelligence. "This is Commander Sarah Chun of the United Earth Federation Starship Horizon. We are humans from the planet Earth. We detected your signal and came to investigate peacefully." There was a long pause. "When?" The voice returned. It carried a tone that seemed both curious and cautious. "Humans, this designation is unknown to our databases. Are you a recently spacefaring species? We achieved our first space flight approximately 400 years ago," Sarah replied. "We've been exploring our local star systems for the past 150 years and developed faster-than-light travel about 50 years ago." Another pause, this one longer. "Commander Chun, would you be willing to dock with our station? The Council would be very interested to meet your species. We have not encountered a new civilization in over 3,000 years." Dr. Webb looked at Sarah, with excitement dancing in his eyes. This was exactly what they had hoped for. "We would be honored, Ambassador Crix." "Excellent. Please follow the guidance beacons to Docking Bay 7. I will meet you there, personally." As the Horizon approached, a massive station, the crew could see that it was even more impressive up close. The structure was composed of what looked like living crystal, with surfaces that shifted and flowed like liquid, but maintained their solid form. Hundreds of different spacecraft were docked around the station, each one clearly from a different species. Rosa whistled softly. "Commander, look at those ships. Some of them are using energy sources I can't even identify. The technology here is incredible." "David, are you recording everything?" Sarah asked. "Yes, ma'am. Every signal, every image, every word. This is going to revolutionize our understanding of the universe. They docked smoothly, and Sarah selected her away team. She would take Dr. Webb for his scientific expertise, Rosa for her engineering knowledge, and David for his communication skills. As they walked through the airlock, Sarah felt the weight of history on her shoulders. They were about to become the first humans to meet an alien species face to face. The docking bay was enormous, easily large enough to hold 20 ships the size of the horizon. The air was breathable, and the gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. Standing waiting for them was Ambassador Crix, and Sarah had to suppress a gasp of wonder. The alien was beautiful in a way that defied description. It stood about 7 feet tall, with a body that appeared to be made of living crystal. Light moved through its form in slow, hypnotic patterns, and where its face should have been, there was a gentle glow that somehow conveyed intelligence and warmth. "Commander Chun," Ambassador Crix said, its voice resonating from within its crystalline form. "Welcome to Nexus Station. I am honored to be the first to greet your species." Sarah stepped forward and offered a formal bow. "The honor is ours. Ambassador, we bring greetings from all of humanity. Please, follow me to the council chamber. The full council is eager to meet you. It has been many millennia since we have encountered a new spacefaring species." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch on forever. The walls were covered with symbols and artwork from hundreds of different cultures, each one clearly alien but somehow beautiful. Other beings moved through the corridors, and Sarah noticed that they all stopped to stare at the humans with what seemed like curiosity. "Ambassador," Dr. Webb said, "how many species are represented on this station?" "Currently, we have 534 species that are full members of the Galactic Council. Each one has gone through the same process you are experiencing today. We have maintained peace and cooperation among our worlds for over 800,000 years. Rosa's eyes widened. 800,000 years? That's incredible. How do you maintain stability for so long? Careful protocols, Chief Martinez. We have learned that rapid change can lead to chaos and conflict. The Council moves slowly and deliberately. It has served us well. They entered a massive circular chamber with a domed ceiling that displayed the stars outside. The chamber was filled with beings that looked like nothing from Earth's imagination. Some were tall and thin, others short and wide. Some had multiple arms, others seemed to float in the air. A few appeared to be made of pure energy. At the center of the chamber, on a raised platform, sat the most imposing figure Sarah had ever seen. It was a being of pure energy, constantly shifting between different colors and forms. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am High Counselor Thane. Welcome to the Galactic Council. Humans of Earth, please tell us about your species and your journey to the stars." Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. "Honored Counselor, we are a young species, but we are eager to learn and contribute to galactic civilization. We have been exploring space for about 400 years, and we have established colonies on 12 worlds in our local region." A murmur went through the chamber. Sarah noticed that many of the aliens seemed surprised by something she had said. Dr. Webb stepped forward. "If I may, Counselor, we are particularly interested in sharing our scientific knowledge. In our brief time in space, we have developed technologies for terraforming, advanced artificial intelligence, and quantum communication." The murmur grew louder. High Counselor Thane's energy form pulsed with what might have been confusion. "Dr. Webb, you said you have been spacefaring for 400 years. In that time, you have developed terraforming technology?" "Yes, Counselor. We have successfully terraformed 3 worlds and are working on 7 more. It's challenging work, but we've found that with the right approach, Most planets can be made habitable within 50 to 100 years. The chamber fell completely silent. Sarah noticed that many of the aliens had stopped moving entirely. Even Ambassador Crix's light patterns had frozen. Commander Chun, High Counselor Thane said slowly, "Could you please clarify your species? Technological timeline? From first spaceflight to terraforming in 400 years? Actually, Counselor, we achieved our first successful terraforming about 80 years after our first spaceflight. We've been refining the process ever since." The silence stretched on for a long moment. Then the chamber erupted in sounds Sarah had never heard before. Aliens were making noises that their translators couldn't interpret, but the emotional content was clear. They were shocked, confused, and possibly frightened. A creature that looked like a walking tree spoke up. "Hi, Counselor, this timeline is impossible. My species required 67,000 years to develop terraforming technology. We are considered rapid developers." Another alien, this one resembling a giant insect, added, "The Zephyrian Empire took 94,000 years to achieve reliable spaceflight. How can these humans have accomplished so much in mere centuries?" David looked at Sarah with concern. They had clearly said something that disturbed the Council, but they didn't understand what. High Counselor Thane's energy form swirled faster. "Humans of Earth, your development timeline is unprecedented in our records. The fastest species in our database took 47,000 years to achieve what you describe. Most asterisk." The catalyst protocol, the tension in the council chamber, was so thick that Commander Sarah Chun could feel it pressing against her skin like a physical force. For several minutes, the assembled representatives of 534 different species had been engaged in rapid conversations in their native languages, their translators working overtime to make sense of the cacophony. The humans stood in the center of it all, uncertain whether they were about to be welcomed or expelled from galactic society. High Counselor Thane raised what might have been a hand, and the chamber gradually fell silent. The energy being's form shifted through several colors before settling into a deep blue that somehow conveyed thoughtfulness. "Commander Chun," the counselor said, "before we proceed, there is someone who must be consulted. Someone who has been waiting for this moment for longer than most of our civilizations have existed." From the shadows at the far end of the chamber, a figure began to move toward them. It was clearly ancient beyond measure, its form so worn and weathered that it was difficult to determine what species it might have originally been. Its body appeared to be made of some kind of living metal, but the surface was so old and smooth that it seemed to flow like liquid. "I am Elder Voss," the ancient being said, its voice carrying the weight of eons. "I have lived for 1,200,000 years. I was present when the first catalyst prophecy was recorded. I have been waiting for this day since before most of your species had discovered fire." Dr. Webb stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "Elder Voss, you said the first catalyst prophecy. Were there others?" The ancient being's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "Oh yes, Dr. Webb. The architects left us many prophecies before they ascended to pure consciousness. But the catalyst prophecy was always the most important because it predicted the end of the Great Stagnation." "The Great Stagnation?" Rosa asked. Elder Voss moved closer to the humans, and they could see that its metal surface was covered with symbols and patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "For 800,000 years, our galaxy has been at peace. But it has also been static. We have maintained order by avoiding change, by moving slowly and carefully. We have become so afraid of conflict that we have forgotten how to grow." High Counselor Thane's energy form pulsed with what seemed like discomfort. "Elder Voss, the protocols have served us well. We have prevented war, maintained stability." "Yes," Elder Voss replied, "but at what cost? When did any of our species last make a significant scientific breakthrough? When did we last explore beyond our established territories? When did we last dream of something greater than what we already have? The chamber erupted in defensive voices. A being that looked like a floating jellyfish spoke up. Elder Voss. Stability is more important than progress. We have learned from the mistakes of the past, have we? Elder Voss turned to face the assembled council. Or have we simply become too afraid to make mistakes at all? Sarah felt compelled to speak. Elder Voss, what exactly do the prophecies say about the catalyst species? The ancient being's form brightened. They say that a young species will arrive, one that develops impossibly quickly, because they are not afraid to fail. They will explore, not because they must, but because they cannot help themselves. They will solve problems not through ancient wisdom, but through fresh thinking. And most importantly, they will remind the galaxy that growth requires risk. A creature that resembled a giant spider spoke up from the council benches. But what if they bring chaos? What if their rapid development leads to conflict? Then we'll deal with that when it happens, Elder Voss replied. But the alternative is to slowly fade away into irrelevance, maintaining our peaceful stagnation until we become nothing more than museum pieces. Lieutenant David Park, who had been quietly observing the proceedings, suddenly spoke up. Elder Voss, you mentioned the architects. Who were they? The first species to achieve true galactic consciousness, Elder Voss explained. They transcended physical existence millions of years ago, but before they left, they gave us the prophecies. To guide us. They knew that organic life would eventually need a catalyst to continue evolving. Dr. Webb's eyes were bright with excitement. Could we communicate with them? Are they still out there somewhere? Elder Voss was quiet for a long moment. The architects left behind more than just prophecies, Dr. Webb. They left behind a guardian, an artificial intelligence designed to activate when the catalyst species arrived. High Counselor Thane's form flared with alarm. Elder Voss, the guardian has been dormant for millennia. Surely you don't suggest we wake it? I suggest nothing, Elder Voss replied. But I believe it may already be awakening. The arrival of the humans has triggered responses throughout the station's deepest systems. As if summoned by his words, the chamber's lights began to flicker. The holographic displays around the room started showing symbols that none of the translators could interpret. Then, gradually, a new voice filled the chamber. It was clearly artificial, but it carried an authority that made even Elder Voss seem young. I am the architect, the voice said. I have been waiting 3,847,293 years for this moment. The catalyst species has finally arrived. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Many of the aliens began making what sounded like prayers or protective gestures in their own cultural traditions. Guardian, High Counselor Thane said carefully, we welcome your awakening. Can you confirm that these humans are indeed the catalyst species? Confirmation is unnecessary, the architect replied. Their development timeline speaks for itself. But more importantly, their presence has already begun to change the galaxy. In the past hour, 17 different species have initiated new research projects. 43 worlds have requested permission to begin deep space exploration missions. The stagnation is already breaking down. Rosa looked around the chamber with wonder. All of this happened just because we arrived? Not because you arrived, the architect explained, but because you exist. You represent possibility, Commander. Martinez, you show other species that rapid advancement is not only possible but sustainable. You have already proven that curiosity and progress do not automatically lead to destruction. A new voice spoke up from the council benches. It belonged to a being that looked like a humanoid covered in beautiful blue scales. I am Counselor Zara of the Aquarian Federation. My species has been working on the same terraforming problem for 12,000 years. We have made no progress. But listening to you describe your methods, I realize we have been approaching it completely wrong. What do you mean? Dr. Webb asked. We have been trying to perfect our theories before we test them, Counselor Zara explained. But you humans test as you go, learning from failure as much as success. You iterate, you adapt, you improve. We have been so afraid of making mistakes that we have stopped learning. Sarah felt a surge of understanding. That's exactly right, Counselor. We have a saying on Earth: fail fast, fail cheap, fail smart. Every failure teaches us something that brings us closer to success. The chamber began to buzz with excited conversation. For the first time since the humans arrived, the aliens seemed energized rather than frightened. But not everyone was pleased with this development. A massive creature that looked like a walking mountain spoke up with a voice like grinding stone. I am General Corax of the Titan Defense Force. This talk of change and progress sounds dangerous. Our protocols exist for good reasons. What if these humans inspire conflicts that our current systems cannot handle? General Corax raises an important point, High Counselor Thane said. How do we manage the risks that come with rapid change? Sarah looked at her team, then back at the council. With respect, Counselor, you don't manage risk by avoiding it. You manage it by being prepared to adapt when things go wrong. You build redundancies. You test your systems. You train for contingencies. But you don't stop moving forward just because the path might be dangerous. Easy words, General Corax rumbled. But what happens when your rapid progress creates weapons that can destroy worlds? What happens when your curiosity unleashes forces you cannot control? Dr. Webb stepped forward. General, we have had weapons that can destroy worlds for over 300 years. We have artificial intelligence that surpasses human intelligence in many areas. We have technologies that could be incredibly dangerous if misused. But we also have ethics, responsibility, and the wisdom to know that some knowledge must be carefully controlled. How? Asked a small, furry creature from the back of the chamber. How do you balance progress with responsibility? By never forgetting. That technology serves life, not the other way around, Sarah replied. Every advancement we make is evaluated not just for what it can do, but for what it should do. We have ethics committees, safety protocols, and constant debate about the moral implications of our discoveries. Rosa nodded. And we make mistakes. We've had accidents, even disasters. But we learn from them, can do better next time. The key is to never stop learning. The architect's voice filled the chamber again. This is precisely why the humans are the catalyst species. They understand that growth requires both courage and wisdom. They are not reckless, but they are not paralyzed by fear either. Elder Voss moved closer to the center of the chamber. The choice before us is simple. We can embrace the change that the humans represent, or we can try to maintain our stagnation. But we cannot do both. A crisis alarm suddenly began blaring throughout the station. The chamber's main display showed a massive energy storm approaching from deep space. It was the kind of natural phenomenon that could destroy the entire station if not properly handled. Emergency protocols activated, announced the station's normal AI. All species are to report to emergency stations. Estimated time to impact: 2 hours. High Counselor Thane's form began cycling through rapid color changes. This is a Class 7 energy storm. Our standard procedures require 72 hours to implement proper shielding. 72 hours? David asked. But you said it. We'll hit in 2 hours. Correct, General Corax said grimly. Standard protocol is to evacuate the station. We have done this twice before in the past 100,000 years. Sarah looked at her team. They were all thinking the same thing. This was exactly the kind of problem humans were good at solving. "High Counselor," Sarah said, "request permission to examine this storm data and the station's defensive systems." "Commander Chun, I appreciate the offer, but this is not a problem that can be solved quickly. Our engineers have been working on storm defense for millennia." "With respect, sir, that might be exactly the problem," Rosa said. "Sometimes fresh eyes can see solutions that experience has overlooked." Dr. Webb was already pulling up the data on his portable computer. "Commander, this energy storm is essentially a massive electromagnetic pulse. If we could create a localized field disruption, we could redirect the energy around the station instead of trying to block it," Rosa finished. "Like water flowing around a stone." The aliens in the chamber stared at the humans in amazement. They had been looking at this problem for less than 5 minutes and were already proposing solutions. "Impossible," General Korak said. "The power requirements alone would be astronomical. Not if we use the station's own energy grid as a conductor." David suggested, "We could turn the entire station into a giant electromagnetic lens." Elder Voss's form brightened with excitement. The architect's systems could provide the computational power needed for real-time field adjustments. "I concur," the architect said. "This approach has a 73% probability of success. Beginning calculations now." High Counselor Thane's energy form pulsed with what might have been hope. "You truly believe this could work?" "We believe it's worth trying," Sarah said. "The worst that happens is it doesn't work, and you evacuate anyway. But if it does work, you'll have saved the station and proven that change isn't something to fear." Counselor Zara stood up. "I volunteer my people to help. If the humans can think of solutions in minutes, imagine what we could accomplish working together." Other voices joined in around the chamber. Species that had barely spoken to each other in centuries were volunteering to work together on this human-inspired solution. General Korax watched the growing enthusiasm with obvious discomfort. "This is madness. We are abandoning proven protocols for the untested ideas of a species we met today." "Yes," Elder Voss said simply, "and that is exactly why it might work." The next hour was a blur of activity. Human creativity combined with alien knowledge and the architect's computational power created a solution that none of them could have achieved alone. The energy storm struck the station exactly as predicted, but instead of destroying it, the combined fields redirected the massive energy harmlessly into space dot when the crisis passed. The chamber was filled with a sound that hadn't been heard in the galaxy for millennia. The sound of genuine celebration and hope. High Counselor Thanes' form settled into a warm golden glow. "Commander Chun, you have given us more than just a solution to one problem. You have reminded us what we are capable of when we are not afraid to try." Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of the moment. "Counselor, we didn't save the station alone. We did it together. And that's what the future of the galaxy could look like. All of us working together, learning from each other, growing stronger through our differences." The architect's voice filled the chamber one final time. "The catalyst protocol is now active. The age of expansion has begun. The galaxy will never be the same again." As the humans looked around at their new alien friends, Sarah realized that they had not just made first contact. They had helped an entire galaxy remember how to dream again. The future stretched before them, full of infinite possibilities and new adventures, and humanity would face it together with civilizations beyond their wildest imagination. The great stagnation was over. The real journey was just beginning. Asterisk.